There is a moment just before everything changes where you can feel the world holding its breath. A battlefield, a war that has lasted 10 years, and one man standing in the middle of all of it, who cannot be killed. Every sword glances off him. Every arrow falls short. Every god who tries to stop him fails. We know how this story ends. We've always known. A single arrow, a single moment, a heel. But what if that moment never came? What if Achilles was truly immortal? If you know one thing about Greek mythology, it's probably Achilles, the greatest warrior who ever lived. Dipped as an infant into the river Styx by his mother, Thetis, a goddess who loved her son so fiercely she tried to cheat death herself. It almost worked. She held him by the heel, and that one small place, the one spot the water never touched, became the thing that killed him. A poisoned arrow from Paris, almost an afterthought after everything Achilles has survived. 10 years of war, Hector, the gods themselves, all of it, and he's brought down by a man who spent most of the war hiding behind walls. There's something almost cruel about that ending. But here is where we rewrite it. What if Thetis held on a little tighter? In our version, Achilles survives Troy. He not just survives, he ends it. Without a vulnerable heel, without a weakness to exploit, Paris' arrow does nothing. Achilles barely notices it, and Troy, which was already crumbling, falls completely. Not through the clever trick of a wooden horse, through the unstoppable force of one man who cannot be stopped. The Greeks go home victorious. Agamemnon takes the glory. The poet takes the story. But Achilles is still standing. And that is where the real problem begins. Because an immortal warrior in a world that has run out of wars to fight is not a hero. He is a question no one knows how to answer. The Greeks celebrate feasts, songs, temples built in the names of the fallen. But you cannot build a temple to a man who won't die. You cannot write a tragedy about someone the universe refuses to finish. Agamemnon fears him, quietly, carefully, the way powerful men always fear the thing they cannot control. The other kings go home to their kingdoms. They have wives, children, futures to build. Achilles goes home to Phthia and finds that peace, Real peace is a thing he was never built for. He trains, he waits, he watches the horizon. His mother, who spent his entire childhood trying to protect him from exactly this, watches her son and understands what she has done. She made him impossible to kill. She forgot to make him possible to live. The men who fought beside him grow old. They have children, grow soft and happy in a way that humans are allowed to do. Achilles does not grow old. He cannot. On Olympus, this is causing a problem. The gods have always used heroes the way a painter uses brushes. Pick them up, use them, put them down. The story ends when the hero dies. That is the agreement. That is how it has always worked. But Achilles won't end. Zeus calls a council. Heirs of God of War is furious. Without death as the final chapter, war itself loses its meaning. What is sacrifice if nothing is actually sacrificed? Athena argues for patience. Hera argues for intervention. And Thetis, Achilles' mother, the goddess who started all of this, sits quietly at the edge of the council chamber and says nothing. Because she knows what she has done. She has made her son eternal. And eternity without purpose is not a blessing. It is the loneliest thing imaginable. The gods try small things first, sending him wars to fight in distant lands, new enemies, new challenges. For a while, it works. Achilles is good at war. War is the only language he was ever taught. But even wars end, and he never does. Decades pass, then generations. The world Achilles knew, Troy, Agamemnon, the wine-dark sea, becomes legend, then myth, then something children are told before bed. He watches empires rise and watches them fall. He watches the gods themselves begin to fade as the world stops believing in them. He outlasts Olympus. He outlasts the age of heroes entirely. And he walks through a world that has no category for what he is. Too old to be a man, too mortal in his heart to be a god. He remembers Patroclus, his closest companion, the one whose death sent him back into war in a grief so violent it shook the earth. Patroclus died so that Achilles would fight, and Achilles fought, and won, and kept living long after the grief should have ended, long after everything should have ended. He finds a quiet cliff, somewhere in a world he no longer recognizes, and he sits, and for the first time in all his immortal years, the greatest warrior who ever lived does not know what to do next. His mother gave him invincibility because she loved him, but she forgot, or maybe she always knew, that the thing which makes us human is not our strength, it is our ending. The myth tells us that Achilles died a hero's death, a short life, a glorious one, and maybe in the end that was never a tragedy, maybe that was always the gift. Gods